Meanwhile, United National Transport Union and state-owned logistics firm Transnet wage negotiations have come to a standstill as the union, representing more than 20,000 employees, has come forth stating that they are planning on taking negotiations to the streets with a strike, which may reduce shipments, costing the economy billions of rands. And join me now to provide further insight is the spokesperson of United National Transport Union, Atenkosi Plaatjies. Thank you so much for your time, Atenkosi. A very, very serious matter here. Just talk to me about the timelines here and exactly where the friction has been between the union and Transnet.
Okay, thank you for having me, and good afternoon to the viewers. So, as you're well aware, the salary wage negotiations commenced in March, whereby we had a 3-day period whereby we would sit down with the employer, would then table our demands, and the employer would then table the offer.
Yeah.
Throughout that 3-day process, Untu and Transnet could not find each other. So we had then a cooling off period for 2 weeks. And predominantly, this period was meant for us to go back to our members and present management's last revised offer. However, we chose not to do that because the revised offer that we received on the table was very far from what we had been mandated by our members. As you understand, as a union, before you start the negotiations, you have a very thorough mandating process where you visit different depots around the country, and you basically get a mandate from your members, and you consolidate this mandate and you present it to management. Now, this is exactly what we did, because this offer was very far and was basically an extension of your 2022 wage agreement. We chose not to take it back to our members. And after that, we then had 1 day after that process that was facilitated by the CCMA, whereby we had the last opportunity to sit together and try to find an amicable solution. Unfortunately, this also was not very successful, and therefore we had deadlocked. Now, last week, we met at the Transnet Bargaining Council, and this was a conciliation process that was also facilitated by a CCMA commissioner. And while this process was basically the last attempt that we had for us to find each other, and unfortunately, that process was also unsuccessful, and a certificate of non-resolution was issued by the CCMA, enabling us to strike, basically.
Okay.
What is very important to highlight that during the conciliation process, it was really an opportunity, and we understood this very well, that it was really an opportunity for us to try and find a middle ground and try to resolve the impasse. But unfortunately, management didn't seem like they were in the same spirits.
In terms of the CCA's role in it, it seems that it really has not been able to do much in terms of getting the parties closer to an agreement. Does this mean that now the CCMA is out of the equation, or can they still play a role in the negotiations?
So, when we approached the conciliation process, we also were very open to a Section 150. Now, what Section 150 means, that the CCMA gets the parties together on urgent basis, for them, in order for them to find each other and find a middle ground. So we did express to the CCMA during the conciliation process that we are very much open to a Section 150 process following the conciliation. And really, this was at the back of the mind, that we understand that industrial action would have a devastating impact on the economy. So the CCMA did write to both parties last week, Thursday, indicating that they are prepared to get the parties together on urgent basis, and then facilitate that process just before a strike. So Untu did respond to this request by the CCMA. And we said that we are willing to sit down, because we really do understand the devastating impact of an industrial action. And also remember that while people might think that employees are always willing to go to the streets, it's not necessarily so, because there's a loss of income while you're there. But they also understand that they need to fight for a fair increment that also reflects the economic crisis that we're currently facing. So we are awaiting that process, the Section 150 process by the CCMA. And we're really hopeful from our side that we can find a middle ground, and we can take that back to our members for a mandating process.
I do understand that there is a minority union that has accepted the wage offer. Does that now not create some sort of pressure on you to kind of clinch this deal and maybe with a little bit of a compromise?
Well, yes, SATAW, the minority union, and Transnet did accept the wage offer. Actually, the opening demand by SATAW and the final revised offer by management was pretty much exactly the same. So then they signed after that. They signed on the third day of the salary wage negotiations. However, you need to understand, as a majority union, we serve our own constituencies who mandated us to present a certain offer. I mean, certain demand on the table. So if that offer, if that demand is not the same, or it's not, it doesn't meet the same demand as SATAW for this instance, then we can't consolidate, which is what happened. And it really does not put any pressure, because whatever wage agreement that Untu signs, because we are the majority with about over 26,000 members, it will supersede the agreement that has been signed by SATAW and Transnet. So we're not really worried about that.
All right. So as we wrap up this conversation, how likely is strike action at this point?
Well, as I previously said, Untu does remain hopeful that we can find an amicable solution and we can take a just, fair offer back to our members. Right now, we are busy with our mandating process, so our balloting process, and we're trying to find out from the ground forces whether they want to go on strike or not, because we are a mandated driven organization. So our senior leadership is on the ground, our branch officials are on the ground, and the receptive is good that employees understand that they cannot accept an extension of 2022. And also, I need to highlight at the heart of this deadlock and impasse is also that non-retrenchment clause. And really, that's where our members are worried, because job security is of the utmost importance, especially with the private sector partnership reforms that are currently happening at Transnet.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights there. Of course, we will be keeping a very close eye on these developments at Atenkosi. That was the spokesperson of United National Transport Union, Atenkosi Plaatjies.